Hey, it's Kevin. Welcome back to the Road Warrior. Reading something the other day about the world we live in and about how we were all about 24-hour convenience, but thanks to COVID, it was a way for a lot of businesses to shut that down. Back in the day, probably 70s, 80s, whatever it was, only big cities like New York had things that were open 24 hours a day. I mean, the gas stations perhaps with truck stops and things like that. But man, I remember driving back in the 70s and 80s, and you had to make sure a gas station was open to be able to get gas. Now you don't have to worry about gas stations or convenience stores being open. But a lot of restaurants, the fast food places that were open, a lot of the restaurants like Denny's, or even IHOP, or Perkins, if you have one of those, all of those pancake house kind of restaurants that were open 24 hours a day aren't all open 24 hours a day anymore. I mean, and I understand the reality. The reality is that while society demanded it, there aren't enough people eating at a restaurant at 2 o'clock in the morning to justify it staying open with a hostess, with a couple of waitresses, with a couple people in the kitchen, or a manager under. I mean, I don't know what it takes to staff a restaurant of 20, 30 tables, but they were losing money doing it. So once COVID happened and they had to close down, they found a way to shut it down. Again, at one time you need one, it's great to have one, but nowadays, you just got to deal with it. And like many, I miss the 24-hour convenience, although I didn't use it all the time. In fact, I very rarely used it. I don't stay out as late now as I used to, and if I'm up late, I'm normally at home. I'm normally sitting in front of a computer, not going out anywhere, not doing anything. So I'm not a night owl. I'm not clubbing. I'm not partying. Not that I ever was a clubber or a partier. Never really was one of those. I mean, there were times that if I was traveling, I was out late, or if I, was hanging out, go to a party at a friend's house or something like that, and it'd be 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and want to stop on the way home and get something to eat, perhaps. At the end of the day, I just said, just go to bed. You're better off just going to bed. But it's interesting how that 24-hour demand we'd built up, they found a way to get rid of it. And now some say, well, we may never, again, never say never, but we may never see it again. Because as much as society wants it, for many businesses, say a restaurant, it's better to have a McDonald's on every corner that's open till 11 o'clock at night than there is having a McDonald's that's 5 or 6 miles away that's open 24 hours, meaning there's 2 or 3 less McDonald's. Does that make sense? It's easier to have more locations, I guess, open fewer hours than it is fewer locations open more hours, because people will go to something nearby rather than travel to something. People aren't driving across town to go to McDonald's. Now, back in the day, they would when McDonald's was only 1 or 2 to a town. I know for a fact when McDonald's came into Nashville many, many years ago, 60s probably, they weren't in Nashville proper. They were in the suburb of Madison, which again, Madison, Nashville, right, it's across the river. I live close to Madison, don't live in Madison, and it's really just a, kind of a suburb of Nashville. It may have a separate zip code. It may actually be, you may send something to Madison, Tennessee, in the zip code. It's a part of the town, but it's not a separate city anymore. The first McDonald's was in Madison, wasn't in Nashville proper. Now, of course, Nashville has, I wouldn't say 100, probably a dozen at least, 25 maybe in Nashville proper. Madison has, I know, 2 or 3. I know of at least 3. And all the little neighboring suburbs have one. So, I mean, it's hard to say. But I find it interesting that something that was, so important back in the day, that convenience, is now gone, perhaps for good. I'm rambling. Back next week, another Road Warrior, kevinmason.us, also kevinmasononline.com, the home to all of our Road Warrior videos, Facebook, YouTube. Again, I don't care where you watch. I don't care, I would say I don't care that you come back every week, but I would love for you to come back every week. I just love the fact that when you are here, you're here. Yeah, I know you may forget every now and again, so we throw them up on social media to remind you. Back next week. Would love it when you comment, you like, you share, do all those interactive things that help us with the algorithm, that help us get it in front of more people. Again, it's not like we're making money. It's not like it matters that much, but it makes me feel a whole lot better. See you next week. Thanks.